Hello, golf fans. Chris Terrell here, dailyfantasysportsrankings.com, DFSR.com for short, to bring you a DFS PGA video. That's right, it's Masters Week. It's huge. I want to go through a couple things here with you today, but first of all, let's go through. We're on the homepage here. If you're looking for my weekly article, you can just scroll down to the article section. Over on the right, click on PGA. Click on the red See Today's Picks. This is where you'll find my weekly article this week. Like I said, it is the Masters, so you can read through, check out my preview, looking at the course, some key stats, previous winners. These are the stats on my model and why, and then some of my top picks. This is a free article you can read every week, and then once you read that, make sure to get over to, if you go over here to other sports, click on Chris's DFS Sheets, premium members. Whether you're in tier 1 or tier 2 membership, you get access to all of my sheets, and they are listed here. You just click on the blue icon here, and that's going to open the sheet for you for members. And then finally, we have the PGA Lineup Optimizer and projection system that we, myself, and this has been mostly Doug that's put this together and got this onto the site to go with our NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL optimizer tools. It's gone very well. We've had people that have just been running just a straight optimizer, the projections that we run. What I want to show you today is how I use my cheat sheet that I provide each and every week, and how I use that in concert with the projections and the optimizer to make my GPP lineups every week. So we'll get started. I want to go over a couple things with the cheat sheet here first. I'm not showing the rankings here. There's a couple things that are hidden just for members only. The members will see that, the overall rankings, but I want to go over the model a little bit. So first of all, the things that are in the model. We've got official world golf ranking, the country. This is all the player information, each player in the field. For the Masters, I've got opening odds. The odds, this was Monday when I updated the sheet again. The opening odds were from, I believe I got those entered in last Saturday. With DraftKings and FanDuel pricing, we've got course history at Augusta, last 10 years, average finish, last 5, last 10. We scroll over and we look at current form. That's the last 10 tournaments for each player and their finish position. Average finish, last 5, last 10. DK average, last 5, last 10. Then we get into the stats. We look at strokes gained stats, putting stats, off the tee. Then we get a little bit deeper into the approach stats, and we look at proximity from distances, rough proximity, fairway proximity, overall proximity. Then we get into the scoring stats, par 3, 4, 5, scoring average, scoring by round, bogey avoidance, birdie or better percentage, which is huge in my models. You'll see each and every week. Then the around the green stats, that's scrambling, overall scrambling, and then specifically sand save percentage there as well. Then we get into the orange section here. That is going to be the model, which is all these numbers you see here. That's just ranking all of these stats. So the stats in the green, this is going to be the raw stat. So round 3 scoring average, that's actually Dustin Johnson 67.9. That's what his average score in the third round. Now, these stats right now are 40% from this current season weighted, and then 60% last season, just because that's still so fresh with a lot of players. We've only got some players in the field that have 8 to 12 rounds only this season, so I wanted to draw some stats, 60% of that from last season as well. So then the orange, this is just the ranking. So this is going to be the raw stats. In the orange, that's going to be the ranking. So that's where we can really start building our model, is with these rankings. At the top, you're going to see numbers above these. That is the percentage I have on the stats. So that is my actual model. So 30% on strokes gained approach, 20% on around the green. I talk about in the article with Augusta, with the shaved edges. The greens are very tough to hold. So it's supposed to play a little bit softer this year, but overall, around the green game is one of the most, obviously 50% in strokes gained approach, 20% around the green. Those are by far the two most important things here at Augusta that I look at in my model. I've got 5% here on strokes gained putting on bent grass greens, 15% on par 4 scoring, 10% on par 5 scoring, and 20% on birdie or better percentage. That's going to be right around 20% almost every single week. Maybe not so much at like tournaments where the winning score, like a US Open, where it's going to be like +1 to -2, very low scores, or sorry, very high scores. That'll maybe be down, but generally it's going to be in that 20 to 25% area, because it correlates very well with DraftKings scoring, FanDuel scoring as well. So then we've got the stats model. So that everything in orange here, that's just the stats model. So then this is the stats model ranked after we run that model. So this is the weighted average after you run and change these numbers. So if you were to take birdie or better percentage out, you're going to see that the numbers in this column change. We're only at 80, so we got to put that 20% somewhere else. So you can definitely do and go and build your own. So when you get the sheet, it is view only. So if you go up to File, make a copy, name it whatever you want, click OK. It's going to open another one, which is what I've done here, and I just named it Video Copy for this. So you can definitely do that as well. So you go up to the top left here. You might not be able to see that in the video, but File, make a copy, name it whatever you want, click OK. You'll have your own. Now it's editable. So you can come up here and you can start changing these. So if you think par 4 scoring's worth a lot more, you could come and put, let's say 25% there, 0 on par 5 scoring, and that's going to change the model up. That's going to change the stats model up. It's going to change the rankings over here. So this overall rankings / stats model, that is the stats that we talked about in orange. That's the course history. That's the odds ranking. That is each golfer's last average finish over their last 5 tournaments, last 10 tournaments, and then DK last 5 and last 10. And then you can put a weight on all of this as well. So I've got a lot more on course history. I'm usually in the 10 to 15% range in my model each and every week for regular events. At the Masters, it goes up almost double. I'll even build, multiple models looking at different things and just seeing where golfers rank, and then maybe I'll just have a separate spreadsheet where I'll build, say, 5 models, and then I'll drag each player and their ranking each of those models over. And this is going to be some future videos as well, some of how I go about building multiple models and comparing players. But for now, I won't go too deep into that. So that's how you can go and adjust the model to get the players, and it's going to pop out an overall ranking, which you'll see here on the far left and far right of the cheat sheet for members only, of course. Same with, you're going to see highlighted plays. Green's going to be my core plays. I will use them in all formats. And in terms of GPP, for exposure, the green plays are going to be the golfers that I have the most exposure to. Blue are going to be my secondary GPP only plays. They're going to have a little bit less exposure than the green plays, obviously. And then we've got, down, always looking for values, down in the bottom range is usually under 7,500 is where I start. There'll be plays in yellow. If a play, like a value play, one of these lower end guys, I won't consider, I'll maybe have a little bit lower exposure than the other. I will also, make them blue or green. Then the next thing I do, if that's a little bit too confusing, or you want to actually look at how I rank all my plays, points per dollar is huge for value. I don't, obviously if you're just ranking the best players, you're going to have all the expensive players at the top. For my own personal rankings, I do it by points per dollar in terms of like my exposure in my GPP lineups. I've got the top 25 blocked out except for the top 2. They're number 1 and 2 in like every model I build. Justin Thomas, John Rahm. This is also a tournament where I feel Stars and Scrubs is going to be huge. Only the top 50 in ties, so probably around 55 to 60 players are going to make the cut. There's only 93 in the field. We can probably wipe around 15 players right to begin with. So the amount of players that are going to miss the cut is a very small. So Stars and Scrubs, I think that you can play this almost like a no-cut event in some ways. So I'll be building a lot of Stars and Scrubs lineups. That's why I have Rahm and Thomas definitely up at the top. They're both very expensive. So moving on into the DFSR projections. So at the top, you click PGA, you click PGA Lineup Optimizer. It's going to bring you here. You have multiple options now. You can click on FanDuel. We have Classic, Weekend Golf, Final Round only. I'm going to go over to DraftKings here now. We've got Classic, Showdown, and Weekend Golf. So Showdown for Week 4 is going to be a little bit different. It is counts the finishing points, while rounds 1, 2, and 3 Showdown do not. We've already adjusted for that. There's no other option you need to click here. So for DraftKings, just by law, their rules are you need to either lock multiple players or lock one player and X one player. So you can't just run optimize and run that lineup. That's just part of their stipulations. That's the way our optimizers run, just to stay within the restrictions. So what we're going to do, I want to show you how I'll build some GPP lineups. So let's just start by looking at my top 2 guys, Rahm and Thomas. I'm going to lock both of those guys in. Locking a player in puts them in 100% of the lineups, no matter what. You cannot use this limit feature, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So if I want to build 50 lineups with Rahm and Thomas as a stack, I can do that. I want to do, let's just start with 10 lineups. Excuse me. Then we're going to click Optimize, and it's going to spit out some lineups for us. So obviously, Rahm and Thomas are going to be in 100%. That's this little number in red to the right of each golfer, tells you what percentage exposure you have within the 10 lineups that you've made. So the first thing that I do, they're going to be very close. It's set up so that the variance between the lineups isn't going to be too high. So this is where tweaking comes in. You can definitely just run these 10 lineups, and it's going off our projection system. But if you want to, get your hands dirty and use the sheet a little bit more with it together, I want to concentrate on my rankings and players that stand out to me. If you're building your own player pool, that stand out to me using the sheet, because the difference in the projections, me and Doug have discussed this quite a few times on our podcasts and stuff that we've done for PGA. My sheet looks at a combination of current form, course history, odds, and stats. Stats is huge in my model. It changes every week with the changing course and weather, the changing field, how I'm going to set it up. Doug is going back and looking at average scoring per round on a per round basis and plugging that in, and looking at variance in players and how consistent they are with their average scores, and looking at it from a more mathematical way without looking specifically at course history, which he has got plugged in now, especially this week. We've got a pretty high weight on that for this week as well. There's some odds in there as well, but we're not looking at current form. We're looking at current form by round, not by event. And then he's not looking at stats in there either. So it's a little bit different. So it really depends on how you want to go about. I like using both. Because there are plays that stand out for both of us. Those are ones that I really like to lock in. So if you see a player that's high in the DFSR projections that I've got highlighted as a core play, that's a player you probably want to get in your player pool. It's not going to work out every week, but I really have found a lot of success when Doug's back-end system and my sheet, and when they come together and we have similar players, it has really worked out for me. So with this, Rahm and Thomas, I'm going to go in and I personally, let's just say I'm not on Matthew Fitzpatrick this week. I don't want him in any of my lines. I'm going to start there. I'm going to hit Optimize again. It's going to spit out another 10 lineups. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time here. So there we go. So now it's got Sung J M. So it's pretty much going to take DK2 and put it into DK1. 70% Ian Poulter, 90% Kevin Kisner. So Kisner's in 9 of 10. So let's just say you don't want 90%, which normally when I'm building GPP lineups, I don't want 90% of a golfer, especially when I've already locked 2 in at 100% stack. I don't want Kisner in 9 of those 10 lineups. So I want to limit him. So I'm going to go up here, search by golfer. You can scroll through the list if you want to, but it's just easier just to search. There's Kisner. I only want Kisner in, let's say, 4 lineups. Type that in. I hit Optimize. It's now going to re-optimize those lineups. And just based off the algorithms, that it's not always going to get you those 4 lineups. It all depends on what other golfers it's trying to put in with the formula and the algorithm that's in there. So now it's dropped him to 10%. So we're just going to go and we're going to limit him to 3. And you just have to play around with this. That's pretty much what it comes down to, is you're just going to have to take some time. Let's crank it up to 7 and see what happens. Yeah, so it's either it wants a lot of Kisner or pretty much none. And I'm okay with it. Just hint, hint, he's one of my core value plays. So I'm going to run this again because Ian Poulter I'm a little lower on. So we're going to find Ian Poulter. We're going to go, let's just say 3 out of 10. Get him down to around 30%. And it drops him to 10% here as well. So when you start limiting guys, it really starts messing with the algorithm. Sung J M, I have none at all. Start Xing him until I start really liking the lamps. I do like Answer. I probably don't want him in 70%. So I'm going to run over, and I'm going to, having trouble typing on my keyboard at the moment. There we go. I want Answer. Let's just say 2, 1 lineups, and kind of a little bit lower on him. So that's how you can go about doing that. You can then export those into a CSV. So then when you get into DraftKings, you can just easily drop that CSV in, load those lineups, put it in, 10 max, 20 max. So if you want to build just 50 lineups and run with the optimizer, you can definitely do that too. Let's just say we want Jon Rahm 50 times. We're really high on Jon Rahm. Usually what I do is just go down to the bottom and use one of my locks or X's as one of the lower end projected guys, because I'm going to have 0% of him anyway. He's not going to show up in any of the optimized lineups. So now we've got one locked, one X'd. We're going to hit optimize. I'm going to have John Rahm in all 50 lineups. We're just going to expand on this limit feature before we go further. And if you want to build some contrarian, like this week, like I said, Stars and Scrubs is going to be popular. So one thing that you can definitely do is build balanced lineups. Avoid maybe the top. If you go and look at, say, like a fan share or a Fantasy National Golf Club and look at their projected ownerships, or if you kind of come up with your own projected ownerships in GPP, fade the top 5 in ownerships if you want to be a little bit different. Something else you can do with our filters is if you want to avoid just the top price guys, because you're looking at a Stars and Scrubs type build, go to the filter salary here, maybe go down to 10,000 and take away your 6K guys and go, let's just say 7,500. 7,500 to 10K. We'll run that on a 50 lineup optimization. See what we come up with there. Going to be, like I said, it's going to be contrarian for sure. You're going to see lineups that you like for sure, because everyone is, with the bounce pricing for the majors, everyone's going to be lower price. So this really works when it comes to the Masters, because you're still getting like Webb Simpson, Louis Oosthuizen, Ricky Fowler, Justin Rose, Patrick Reed, Scotty Scheffler. They are all on my list this week. So if you want to go about building some contrarian lineups, that is one way I would definitely go ahead and do it. And as you see, I built 50 lineups this way. There really isn't a whole lot of golfers that really show up in most of the lineups. Louis Oosthuizen in 76%. Let's say we want to drop some of these guys down. 50 lineups. Let's say we want him in 20. We'll hit optimize and we'll get more coming up here. So usually what I'll do each and every week when I get the sheet published and out, I'm going to come through my cheat sheet. I'm going to highlight my top green plays first, then my blue plays, then my yellow plays. Something else I will do is I will take those. Yeah, so there's the re-optimized lineup. We've dropped Louis down to 20% exposure. We've got Scotty Scheffler up to 92, so you could definitely adjust that as well. And then export, load into DraftKings. Makes it very, very easy to, to not just run the optimized lineups that show up when you just first hit optimize. You can definitely go about building different player pools, different sets of player pools, and easily get in there and get in the 150 max tournaments. If that's something that you're planning on doing and maybe want to do a little bit more, it's something I experiment first of all, going in like the nickel or the dime or the quarter tournaments, building 150 max using an optimizer, using different options. I always want to take notes of the filters that I use, how I go about my exposure, how I go about building my multiple. When I talk about my sheet and building multiple models, I'm going to take screenshots of how I run my stats model, how I run my overall model. And then when I build my secondary sheet, I'm going to start I'll just hit plus here in the bottom and I'll go say model number 1, and I'll write down what my model is going to be, what the top 25 players are, and then model number 2, top 25 players. And then I'm going to start to look at the players that start standing out in every single model. Now, some of those models are going to take out course history completely. Some of them are just going to look at stats, specifically only stats. Some are going to be only course history and stats, current form last 5, current form last 10, and start comparing that way. The more you put in, the more you can get out. So if you have questions on how to go through my sheet, how to read my sheet, what stats I'm looking at. So like specifically for cash games, I'm always looking at strokes gained, ball striking, and specifically more weight on approach. Especially this week, we got wider fairways, so a lot of guys are going to be hitting the fairways. The key here, like I said before, is going to be winning with the approach shot. The guys that have the best approach shot and the best around the green when they're not hitting the greens, because everyone's going to miss the greens around here. Those two things. So that's what I'm looking at. Strokes gain around the green, strokes gain approach. You want to start comparing players. You want to go a model that's like 80% on just those two stats. You would just come over here and you can wipe this all out to start with. As you can see, you're going to get errors. Come back over here. Let's go 40% approach, 40% around the green. We need some birdies in there, so let's go 20% birdies. That gives you a whole completely new set of rankings, a new model. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with my sheet in the model, and then drag that over and copy those players and put that into the optimizer, so you can easily build, like I said, 150 lineups easily in GPP with only a few minutes. The biggest thing that I'm going to stress here, if you're going to be building multiple lineups using this system, is to take the time and set up the filters. Like I said, if you're doing the salary and you want to avoid the chalk, stars and scrubs builds, and you want to build, say, 50 lineups that aren't chalk, you can lower this salary filter. Even if you only want to do 10 lineups that way, build 10 lineups that are going to avoid the chalk, hit optimize, hit export, and then drag that over to DraftKings. Come back, you want to build 10 more, reset the page. Reset the page, we go back to DraftKings. We want 10 lineups with Justin Thomas. It actually looks like Justin Thomas might be one of the lower owned guys in that top tier. So we want to lock Justin Thomas. This is something, you want to lock Justin Thomas, but you want to avoid those low guys. You can bring this down. Let's go 7,600, for instance. Oh, we got to X a player. So we don't want, you could, because you can't lower the top filter here because you've got Justin Thomas locked. You can X out all the 10K guys. So once I X out all the other 10K guys, let's sort by salary. We'll X out all the 10K guys. We'll put Webb Simpson back in that pool. We've only got Justin Thomas locked, and we've got no one coming in under 7,500. So it's having trouble with that build, so we're going to have to extend this down probably to 7K. There we go. So sometimes if it doesn't build, that just means the parameters of the algorithm can't handle what you've done. So just go back and adjust. Like I went from 76 to 7 on the filter salary, and now I've got my lineup. So I've got Justin Thomas, I've got no other 10K plus guys, and I've now built 10 lineups. Boom, export, drag it over to DraftKings, done. So if you have any questions for this, I'll be in chat pretty much all day today, tonight, until probably around midnight Eastern, somewhere around there. Lock is tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern. I will not be up before lock, so I will have all my lineups done tonight and ready to go. If you have questions, hit me up in the chat room or on Twitter. You can hit me up at Daily Fantasy SR on Twitter, or my own Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9. Thanks for checking out the video, downloading the sheet. Thanks for all your support on DFSR.com. We really, really appreciate it. We have free trials up, 1 week free trial today if you're not a member, so make sure to get over. If you go to the home page here, click on any of our tools and you're not a member, it's going to take you to this page. But if you want to get in, get your free trial, see what we all have to offer, you can click on the player lab here. It's going to take you to dailyfantasysportrankings.com/sales page. You're going to see everything that we got here, and our membership levels at the bottom. So you got classic, that's not going to get you the optimizers, that is going to get you my cheat sheets, that's going to get you all the stats, the chat room, $15 a month, and then for $29.95 a month, that gets you the optimizers for NBA, NHL, NFL, PGA, and MLB. We'll be back next season as well. So that gets you all the optimizers as well as the chat, the cheat sheets, everything that we offer for $29.95 a month covers all those sports. One-time deal, $99, gets you the next 5 months. And like I said, we've got a 1 week free trial as well. Thanks for checking out the video again. Like and subscribe. More videos coming along. Good luck this week, everyone.